When asked what I believe, I must admit that I don't know what to believe. And realizing that I don't know what to believe and therefore I am an agnostic, I became a UU. I grew up in a family that was centered on religion, Southern Baptist. We read the Bible at breakfast, and then every day after school I went to a church meeting. And during most summers, I spent the whole time at Baptist camp. We went to revivals in our little town and drove miles to revivals in other cities to hear people like Billy Graham. We read the Bible every night before bed. I had read it all the way through 3 times and memorized a good bit of it before I graduated from high school. We prayed a lot during the day. We prayed for forgiveness. What we felt the most was fear of displeasing God and being punished for it. Much fear. I lived with this devotion and fear for 18 years before attending a Baptist girls' college. It was during my sophomore year that my religion teacher told us that the Bible is not the direct word of God, as I had drilled into my head for 18 years, but rather a string of stories and myths. What a revelation that was. It changed my life. I left the Baptist Girls College and transferred to the University of North Carolina, a place that was a far cry from being the focus of God, the Bible, Jesus, and fear. It was 12 years before I walked into another church, and that church was the UU Congregation of Greater Atlanta. My first experience at that large church was when I was invited to produce some adult education classes there. I immediately realized that the folks I was training were people that I wanted to spend time with. There was none of the dogma that I had grown up with, and none of the fear. The minister at the time was Reverend Eugene Pickett, who became one of the foremost leaders of the UU world. More than the freedom to choose what I believed, I found a community to belong to. I had just gotten divorced and found a wealth and depth of support at that church. I attended regularly. About 12 years later, I moved from Atlanta to the Washington, D.C. area, where I immediately joined Cedar Lane Unitarian Church in Bethesda, Maryland. This too was a large church, about 600 people. Once again, I found a community of like-minded friends and an environment that was more spiritual than religious and without dogma and fear. Over the next 11 years, I served on nearly every committee, chairing several, and served as secretary of the board. I still have attachments to that church and good friends there. When my husband David wanted to retire early and move to San Miguel, as much as I enjoyed being in one of the most exciting cities in the world, Washington, D.C., I could live here because there was a UU fellowship and I could establish roots at this UUF. This was in 2008. Having learned in Bethesda, the best way to build personal community is by getting involved. I soon became chair of the Sunday Service Committee for 7 years, a board member for 10 years, and over the years, a member of nearly every committee. Although I strongly support our blend of spirituality and social justice, what has served me best is the beloved community that I hold dear. Small group discussions, neighborhood connections of UUs, circle sanas, committee work, and the first fellowship women's group, Mis Hermanas, have helped me connect closely to the most interesting and compassionate people. When David died 2.5 years ago, I was left with no family, no children, no siblings. The very day he died, a wonderful UU friend came to the hospital to collect me, take me to lunch, and then to what I thought would be an empty house. When I got home, Reverend Tom Rossiello was on my doorstep. And soon 4 UUs reached out to me to go to dinner that night at David's favorite restaurant. Emails, phone calls, flowers, cards, and invitations from UUs helped me through my darkest days. 6 weeks later, after the snowbirds had gone home, over 100 people attended the celebration of David's life. The celebration was held at the Allende, and a lovely service was produced by Tom Rossiello, Paula Peace, and Malcolm Halliday. I will never forget it. I feel so blessed to have found a home in this UU fellowship, a home of loving, achieving, and interesting people who have become my dear family. No dogma, no fear, just love binds us together. This is what I believe.